What's up, everybody? It's your boy Al. Happy Wednesday. Hope you're having a good day. Want to talk about with the election coming up. There seems to be a lot of discussion about whose hands the country would be better in, Trump or Harris. You know, a lot of people talking about Trump, a lot of people talking about Harris, and we're hearing worst case scenarios in case either one of them is in office. People talking about this Project 2520 with Trump. If he gets in office, he's trying to start a dictatorship. He admires dictators, and people think that if he gets in office, that we'll start a dictatorship. Democracy will die as we know it. People say if Harris gets in office, the borders will just absolutely opened up. Everything will change. The economy will change. Workforce will change. We already see a lot of that happening here now. So whose hands would the country be better in? Would it be Harris or Trump? I think the first thing we need to understand is it's really hard to compare the Trump-Biden administration, the Trump-Harris administration versus the Biden-Harris administration versus the Trump administration. It's hard to compare because we had something not seen between the two administrations, something that hasn't been seen in the course of human history, and that is the pandemic. It's hard to gauge who was better or how things went when there was a pandemic that changed the world. There are a lot of things that happened under the Biden administration that showed recovery numbers in employment and economic spikes and growths, which of course, after a pandemic is over, you're going to see that. There are a lot of things that happened under Trump with money given out, handed out. Of course, it's going to happen when you're in a recession or when you're in a pandemic where the entire country shuts down. So I think that one of the things we need to do is we need to get a clear head, a clear understanding that it's not fair to put either administration against the other, being that we saw something happen in this country that we've never seen before, or at least not since the Great Depression. And even the Great Depression was brought on through economic circumstances. It wasn't brought on by a virus. All right. So it's hard for me to look at Trump's accomplishment versus Biden's accomplishments with Harris. It's hard for me to look at the accomplishments, the positives for either, without factoring in the pandemic. It was too much going on that allowed one administration to succeed over the other and vice versa. But going forward, rolling as we are, who would the country be in? Whose hands would the country be better in, Trump or Biden? A lot of people feel that Trump would lead our country better. They feel like he's the businessman. Of course, we have those people who follow Trump that, or I don't know, almost have a Trump religion, which is scary. And I think a lot of the fears of Donald Trump being the president of the United States has to do more with what we suspect he will do than what we know he will do. As president of the United States, Donald Trump said some crazy things. He had crazy followers. He had this crazy cult-like following. But when you look at his accomplishments didn't match the level of crazy. He didn't do any really ridiculous, crazy things. We didn't go into an economic tank under Donald Trump. We didn't go into an economic boom either. But I think Donald Trump, there's more fear of what people think that he might do based on what he says and what his followers say and think and feel. When you look at Donald Trump when he was first running for president, when you look at some of the rallies and some of the things he would say in some of the rallies and some of the people's responses to the things he said in the rallies, it gave the impression that we were looking at a second rising of the Ku Klux Klan. That's just how it looked when some of those all white, middle of the road, middle of the country rallies with him saying weird, outlandish stuff and people getting rah crazy. It gave the perception that if he got in office, white people would be riding around with shotguns lynching people again, when that's not what happened. What happened was Donald Trump said what he needed to say to align himself with the ideologies of people who felt like they weren't not being heard from. What he did was he pretended to accept and agree with the ideologies of people who he had nothing to do with. Donald Trump is a big city man. Can we get that? Can we understand that? He's a big city man. He's a New Yorker. He's a big city man. He spent his whole life smoozing with big city people, mostly people on the left. He spent most of his life at big sporting events. He spent most of his life at big boxing events, spending time with the rich, with the powerful, whether they're on the left or the right. He's been a man who's been such a smoozer with people in the hip hop community and the entertainment community that people have dropped his name in rap songs and rap lyrics for years. Donald Trump was that guy his whole life. And then all of a sudden he wants to be president of the United States. And he goes to places where people feel like they're marginalized, they're not heard from, nobody cares about him anymore. These people that live in these what you call flyover states. Goes to these states, he hears what's coming out of their mouths. Once he hears what's coming out of their mouth, he starts letting the same kind of rhetoric fly out of his mouth to get them on his side. But when you look at where he's from and where they are, a lot of the rhetoric that he spit, that he was encouraged and inspired to spit based on what they were saying, is not what he lived at all. Yeah, he's rich, he's prejudiced. All rich people have some kind of prejudice. I know black rich people who have prejudice against black people. Nicki Minaj was asked a question about what do we think should be done for our people? And she responded, who is our people? So when we say that Donald Trump is rich and he's prejudiced against black people or against whoever, guess what? Most rich people are prejudiced against people not like them. Young Thug was asked a few years ago, one of the hardcore gangster rappers from Louisiana was asked, what do we think should be done about the people, the young black people, being a young black man himself, what should be done about the young black men being murdered in the United States of America? He said, let the people in the communities and the police handle that. We up here having money and got gold. I don't care about any of that. I'm not around any of that. So when we say Donald Trump doesn't care about poor people, guess what? No rich person hardly cares about poor people. Let's not just hang that on his neck. That's a cop out. That's a cop out. People say that he's rich. He got handed a fortune. He's prejudiced against poor people or people of color. I guarantee you Donald Trump is prejudiced against a lot of the people that are at his rallies, right? I guarantee you that. He's prejudiced against a lot of people that comes to his rallies that love and support him. I guarantee you he would not sit in the same room with some of these people. But I think what he did was he carried an ideology that he had to carry to become the president of the United States and talked the language of people who were still stuck in the 1960s and 70s. That's why he adopted the slogan, Make America Great Again, because for him, he knew what that slogan would mean to those people. He knew what that would mean to them. Not that for them, they thought it was going to go back to the days where, black person had to cross the street when they saw a white person coming, or hold their head down, not looking at white person now. That's what some of them thought it was going to mean to make America great again. But he knew good and well that that's not what he was going to do. That was not what he was going to do by making America great again. What we saw from a Donald Trump presidency was really nothing unusual. We saw that he throws temper tantrums. We saw his response to a lot of things around his presidency, right? Like when he lost the election, his firing up the people to go to the Capitol, which, to be honest with you, in this climate, I'm not against what you would call storming the castle or storming the Capitol. I think it was done for the wrong reason. But when you look at the inflation on the rise versus people's salaries, something has to be done. And I know in the medieval times, people, when the king's table was too full and the townspeople's plates were too empty, they'd storm the Capitol, storm the castle, behead the king, start this thing over again. I'm looking at the economy. I'm looking at the fact that people with $250,000 households can't even make ends meet today. $250,000 households can't even make ends meet. And I'm looking at this thing just keep climbing and climbing and climbing. And let me tell you something, folks. This has been done for 50, 60 years under Democrat president, Republican president, Democrat president, Republican president. So don't try to hang this on the neck of Trump or Biden. This is being done around, no matter who the president is, no matter who the president has been, they haven't been able to stop this. Reagan, Clinton, Bush, baby Bush, Trump, Obama, nobody has been able to stop this inflation. So let's not hang that around the neck of any president. But what I think the danger is with Trump is what we fear he's going to do. He says he doesn't have anything to do with this plan 2520. He says he's not trying to, and I don't believe I don't believe he's dumb enough to believe that he could suspend the Constitution. I keep hearing people say that. I've never heard him say that. I don't know where it came from. I think a lot of people hear him talk, and again, their fear is listening to him talk, what they think he would try to do. They hear him talk, and then they come to these conclusions about what they think he's going to do, like suspend the Constitution. I've never heard him say that. I do know that, again, he's an egomaniac. And that's, sometimes egomaniacs get things done. Sometimes egomaniacs only get things done for themselves. I do know under a Trump administration, I had and still have a successful, good paying job. My taxes were straight. And I really didn't see anything to make me shake and shiver over another Donald Trump presidency. But people seem to have this thought that democracy will end as we know it under Trump, when I haven't heard anything like that come from his mouth. Now, what I am afraid of is people trying to push or moving towards this Christian nationalist movement, trying to, I think there may be some push to more combine Christian nationalism with politics. In other words, this removal of separation from church and state, which I don't agree with as a Christian, because I believe that Christianity is something that shouldn't be centralized. I believe that Christianity shouldn't be militarized or centralized. I believe that a follower of Christ I believe that following Christ is outside of the margin of society. In other words, Christ didn't call his followers to take over countries and force a Christian state. He said, whosoever will, let them come. And so I believe that that's something that I don't think for those of us who believe is a good thing. Now, Roe v. Wade, I think there has to be some middle ground. I don't believe in abortion. I do understand that there are things that in life that happen that cause for us to have to make a decision about the lives of women. I do believe there needs to be some room for that. I don't believe abortion should be something that's available for women who just want to bang and abort. I don't believe in bang and abort. But I do think that there are medical situations that call for, life happens to the just and the unjust. There are things that happen in life where decisions have to be made. And I believe that there should be some room for that. So I hope that there's something that's done in reference to that. Now, as far as Kamala Harris is concerned, how would the country be in her hands? We don't know, because we don't know actually what she's done, what role she's played. Joe Biden was on a View this morning, said that a lot of his responsibilities he delegated to her, because she's just as capable as he is of handling responsibilities. But for me, people who fear that the country will be in ruin in the hands of Trump, let's look at what it would be in the hands of Harris. First of all, let's look at the Biden-Harris administration and how they've handled this immigration thing. Let's look at what's happening in Chicago. Let's look at what's happening in Colorado. Let's look at what's happening in Ohio. And let's envision that under a Harris presidency that keeps on happening. Let's imagine that keeps on happening, where our borders just keep getting flooded with undocumented people, our tax dollars, hundreds of millions of tax dollars that should go to citizens, go to illegal immigrants. Hundreds of millions of tax dollars that should go to schools for our kids, go to illegal immigrants. Hundreds of millions of dollars that should go to fix up our communities, go to house illegal immigrants. Let's envision what the country would be like if that keeps happening. Because for me, you want to talk about what you think Trump's going to do once he's in office. For me, that what could happen with this immigration thing is just as scary. Now, I know some of you aren't dealing with it right now, so it doesn't mean as much to you, which is why what Abbott again did was so genius. The governor of Texas and the governor of Florida, by pushing the problem on people who usually wouldn't see the problem, so they can see how big of a problem it is. And when you see how the Democrats respond, taking dollars, whether it's on a state level or what have you, taking dollars that are supposed to be reserved for citizens and using that money to house, take care of, feed, clothe illegal immigrants in these democratic states, these democratic run cities, when they're taking money that's for citizens and using it to house and feed and clothe illegal immigrants, it makes you wonder who's pulling the strings that they can't send these people back, right? Who's forcing their hands? Because we're in a democratic presidency. So who's forcing the hands of these states? Well, when these people come, they have to give them apartments, they have to give them clothes, and they have to give them housing, and they have to give them money, and they have to give them vouchers, and they have to give them credit, and they have to give them homes. There's citizens that are living in tents, that work jobs, decent paying jobs, that can't afford a house because of inflation, and they have to live in tents. But meanwhile, you have illegal immigrants who are coming over and being able to buy homes that citizens who've lived here 30 and 40 years can't buy. And I don't know about you, but if the country keeps going that route, you want to talk about a civil war breaking out, baby. You're talking about a civil war breaking out between citizens and non-citizens, because it's already about to pop off in Chicago. These immigrants are coming over and they're starting gangs and taking over apartment buildings and taking over office buildings. And if you're people who are responsible for allowing the immigrants to come in, and you hear that, at the first sign of hearing that, you are supposed to move in and get them out. But that's not happening, and I want to know why. We all want to know why. Who's pulling the strings to allow that to happen? And when you see that Biden and Harris are in office, and you see this happening in their administration, I'll tell you what, Trump didn't finish building that wall, but I do remember many times when my wife was going to go to work in her predominantly Hispanic student school, that a whole lot of times students stayed home and mothers and fathers were locked in houses because Trump had people out and about here in Texas, out and about rounding up citizens who weren't supposed to be here. And that's not happening now. They're not running, ducking, and hiding because of a fear of being deported now. But it was happening during Trump's administration. So what I don't think that we should do is say that Donald Trump is going to get in office and create chaos, when we already see chaos being created by the left. And please don't come to me with what are the Republicans going to do for us? What are they going to do for us? Like I said, your life, nobody under a Republican or Democratic regime has seen their income jump $100,000 under either one. So stop talking like either one is responsible for paying your bills. We're talking about little small, in a grand scale of things, we're talking about little small adjustments that affect our day-to-day life, right? Yes, we do want to see more loans for Americans who want to start small businesses. We do want to see if Kamala Harris is serious about housing assistance for new homeowners, that'll be a step in the right direction. But I don't see how that's going to happen when all of this money is going to illegal immigrants. I mean, is that what you're just saying? Or is that actually going to happen? That would be a great thing, but how are we going to do that? Will we shelling out all of this money that's going overseas for funding wars that we didn't start, and that's housing immigrants that do not vote? And on that subject, and I've said this before, is that the grand scheme of the immigrants that the Democratic Party needs some new poor people to pitch their poor people policies to? Because too many black people now are progressing. Too many black people now are in upper middle class. Too many black people now are business owners, homeowners, CEOs, presidents, high-ranking officials in their companies. And we're now starting to move to Republican Party, whereas historically speaking, the Democratic Party heavily leaned on poor blacks to be able to win these offices. But are they looking at us, seeing the progression that we've made, the awakening that some of us have had, and saying to themselves, we need some new Negroes? We need some new Negroes. And when I say new Negroes, I mean we need some new poor people who we can pitch poor people policies to, that when we pitch these policies to, they'll vote for us because they need these policies to stay afloat. Can I tell you something? A lot of us now don't need their policies to stay afloat. Not that were pitched to us in the Lyndon B. Baines Johnson days. We don't need the welfare. Sure, some of our elderly need this stuff, but a lot of young progressive blacks out here, we don't need this. We want to start businesses. We want to get promoted up in our companies. We're not worried about that stuff. Not a lot of us, not the ones that are moving and shaking. Now you have some of us that just decided to not pick up the pieces in life. Yes, I know some of us in all walks of life and in all races, the ball doesn't bounce in our direction. We have hardships and we need a hand. And I understand that. But for a lot of black people in America, man, we are out on what they used to try to pitch us. We're out on what they used to try to sell us. Some of us anyway. Or should I say, enough of us are out. Well, they can't rally us up as a group of black people and say, go vote and I'll give you this. Food stamps, welfare, this, that, government housing. No. They can't pitch that anymore. So is it that they are allowing all these people in? No license, no social security, no health, no credit history, and allowing them to have all these things of a citizen because they're quickly trying to get them to citizenship so they can have some new Negroes. In other words, are they done with us and passing us along while we still trying to vote for them and rally around them? So, whose hands will the country be worse off in? Democrats, Republicans? Tell me what you think. It's your boy Al. Holla at me. Don't forget to click like, subscribe. We'll come back at you tomorrow with some more things on my way home. Peace.